Hello everybody and welcome. Here's another video from Starship Adventures, and today we're going to talk more about ham radio. Specifically, I'm speaking to new ham radio operators. It's very easy when you first get into ham radio and you first get your license, or even start looking into it before you get your license. A lot of people get very discouraged. It's a big world. There's a lot of grumpy people, and I don't know how to navigate it. And so when people run into these problems, the human thing to do is to go do something else because it's a lot less complicated. But I'll tell you, it's worth putting in the effort to get into ham radio. It really is. I have found ham radio to be wonderfully enriching and significantly disappointing. And so the video today, I'm going to try to help you using the experience that I and others in my group have gained on how to navigate the ham radio system and to get the best out of what is a slowly dying hobby. And we hope to change that at some point, but that's going to be done through change and innovation. We'll talk about all that here in just a little while. The first thing I want to talk about is the hobby itself. First thing you need to know about amateur radio is it's not a hobby. This is the biggest misconception about ham radio. It's not a hobby. It's a collection of hobbies. It's a genre of hobbies, if you will. It's hobbies that surround electronics and communications and radio and communications infrastructure. So to say, that ham radio is a hobby would be wrong, because it's not. It's a broad range of hobbies that are all grouped together, and all you need is one license to actually do all of the different things in the hobby. And that's really cool. So I strongly recommend getting into ham radio. If you haven't gotten your license yet, get it. The government publishes the answers. It's not cheating. Just read it, memorize it, and then once you get in, you'll learn what you need to know to be a good radio operator and to understand where your boundaries are and what you're allowed and not allowed to do. There's a lot of good and bad in amateur radio, and we're going to go through a lot of that in this video today. And I'm going to be very frank, as I always am, about what I feel about ham radio and how I feel it's being managed, or in many cases mismanaged. And we're going to talk a lot about that in this video. This is not going to be a really short video, because I have a lot to say, and I've got a lot of information that I can pass on to you. Amateur radio is a very wide-ranging depth field. You can do everything in ham radio. You can do DXing, which is making contact with people that are very far away. Contesting, which is where you use your radios, or you and a group use your group of radios to contest, to try to make as many contacts as you can and compete with other people on the art of making contacts and making distance contacts and things like that. There's also a lot of things like the disaster and the emergency services. There's a lot of teams around the country that are both affiliated and non-affiliated with ARRL that do disaster and emergency preparedness. And so if you're into that, or if you are, like me, retired from public safety, then possibly that would be a route that you might want to look into. Although I will tell you, the use of these teams by governments has dwindled over the years, because they went from a secondary communication ability to a tertiary communication ability, and now they're not really even that. Cell phones stayed up during the Category 5 here that we had. So amateur radio is not what it used to be when it comes to emergency services, because it's just not as needed as it used to be. There's also fox hunting, which is really fun. That's using directional finding antennas and radios in order to find a radio that's been hidden somewhere. That can be a lot of fun. There's data modes like FT8, FT4. I've made thousands of contacts using FT8. I have actually made contacts with people in every country in the world. Just about every country in the world anyway. There's, I think, 4 or 5 left. But I've made amazing contacts around the world to all the participating, nearly all the participating countries out there using digital modes. It's a lot of fun. There's no chit chat. You don't have to worry about getting stuck in a long conversation with somebody that's twice your age. It's simply digital. Hey, it's me. Hey, it's me. Where I'm reading you here, I'm reading you there, and it goes in the logbook, and it's a logged contact. That's a really fun thing. Moonbounce. You can actually build your own equipment and bounce signals off the moon and talk to people on the other side of the planet that are looking at the same moon you are on their opposite horizon. Really fun stuff there. And Skywarn is another one, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA as most of us call it. They have a program called Skywarn, and Skywarn can be done in conjunction with your amateur radio license using amateur radio equipment. You can do satellites using them as repeaters. There's actually satellites up there that repeat what you send up and they send it back down. So you can talk to somebody that is literally thousands of miles away using a short distance propagation mode. It's pretty cool. There's designing and building antennas, one of my favorite things in ham radio. Operating with very low wattage, or QRP, another neat thing that a lot of people get into. You got to be very careful, have a very good radio that's well tuned to the antenna, and have an antenna that does a really good job in order to talk and pick up signals that are being sent on low wattage. So that's kind of a fun thing to do. Also, there's slow scan TV, which is a way to send images over radio, kind of like the old fax machines. And of course, there's off-grid operating and operating out in the wilderness, and hiking operating and things like that. Parks on the air, summits on the air, Walmart parking lots on the air. There's almost any reason to go out and operate your radio. And so a lot of people get into a number of these different things, not just one. So when you first get into it, the first thing you need to decide is, what do I want to do with ham radio? And of course, it's hard to figure that out at first because you haven't done anything yet. So this is where it's nice to find amateur radio operators in your area. And I'm going to get into this in just a few minutes because it's hard to find people to partner up with. It's hard to find people to work with. Some towns are better than others as far as having willing people to work with you. But you do want to find some people to help you out. And you want to explore all the different things there is in ham radio and then pick somewhere to begin. And I think probably the easiest and most inexpensive way to begin is with your technician license, if that's what you have, or any license. You can operate on VHF and UHF. If you can operate on VHF and UHF with a tech license or any license, then you can talk on all your local repeaters, and you can start getting involved with your local repeater nets. That's a good way to meet people, although you will meet a lot of people on there that are less than desirable too. So you have to pick and choose. But you need to start working right off the bat on, where am I going to go? Do I want to do programming? Do I want to make programs that do ham radio communications? Do I want to build radios like in the old days? Get a Heath kit and build it. Do I want to build my own antenna equipment? Or do I just want to be an appliance operator? I really just want to turn the dial and it works, and I can talk to my buddies on ham radio. All that is fine. There's nothing wrong with any of that. And you can do socializing, DXing, which is long distance talking, programming, building. There's so many things to do in ham radio. Partner up with someone that's more experienced if you can. It helps. If you're in the Southwest Florida area, you can contact me and I will help you. I'll get you with people that can help you. I'll help you myself. If you are not in this area, then you need to find people that will help you out. Unfortunately, a lot of the groups are not that good. A lot of them are. You just kind of have to go and see what your group is all about. Which brings me to my next thing. And clubs are not always the answer. You know, in the years ago, 30, 40 years ago, everything was done on a handshake. There was a club for everything. There was a gentleman's drinking club. There was bottle clubs. There was clubs for automotive groups. There was clubs for everything. There's literally a club for almost anything you want out there, but clubs have changed over the years. People, humans have changed over the years. And these nonprofit clubs have kind of taken on a little bit of a different feel and look than they had years ago. And so you have to be cautious. I ran into a club that's corrupt, that literally has a system in place to make sure that only people's friends get in positions of power within the group. And if you're considered someone new that's coming in, that's a wild hair, a mover and a shaker, someone that wants to come in and really help out and do a lot, you're immediately shunned. And in my case, it was a lot worse than that. I joined my local group. I wanted really bad to help them and to do a lot with them. I've run very successful nonprofits in the past with the fire department and with my community. I have been all my life very community oriented and somewhat of a philanthropist. And I know what it takes to get some of these groups going. And what I found was a group that had 250 members, $40,000 or so in several different accounts, and they really didn't do anything. There was no outreach to schools. There was no, even on winter field day, summer field day, they didn't, I tried to get the press to show up. They didn't even want the press to show up. I mean, it basically comes down to these groups are just groups of old men that like to come and sit around and do what they like to do, and they don't want to hear about what you like to do or what you want to do. And so unfortunately what you end up with is a lot of these groups have become somewhat corrupt over the years. Maybe not criminally corrupt in some cases, in other cases very criminally corrupt. When people pay dues to a group, you have the right to pick who your officers are. And one thing I found in my local club here is you really have no say on who your officers are. The officers pick a group of people that picks the next set of officers. And generally that group of people ends up picking themselves. It's like I said, they step down just in time for that group to pick them. Very, very corrupt. And then that group is rubber stamped in. At a meeting, they'll come out in the annual meeting and they won't present lists of candidates. They won't present anything. All they present is the slate of candidates that has been presented by this nominating committee, okay? And then when this nominating committee nominates this group, then this group turns around and nominates all these same people back in different positions again. You got the same guy that serves 1 year here, 1 year there, 1 year here, 1 year there, 1 year there. And then when he runs out of places to serve, they call him the past president and he gets to serve another year. It's all just a power trip. It's all just a bunch of old curmudgeons that are trying to keep it exactly the way it is and not make it any better. They had no connected repeater system when I joined up. This group, they had enough money to put up towers, okay? And they weren't even fixing the repeaters they have. There is still repeaters in this county that have been down for over a year. And they've got it now, finally, after I suggested it and then was kicked off the committee to do it, they finally put together a connected repeater system here. But it don't work right. It sounds like shit. It's all muddy. And it doesn't even transmit a PL tone for decoding. So, you know, they're up to over 300 members now, and they're all paying $25 a month for dues. What do they get for that? They don't do build days. They do have a place that they store old equipment that you can go look through it and buy it. It's kind of a big mess. I'm telling you, the problem with these groups is they're a bunch of old men, and they're used to having their way. They come down here from up north. They were managers, commissioners, mayors, business owners, entrepreneurs, salesmen from up north. And they retire and they come down here and they want to run everything. And they get in these groups, and before long, they've got a foothold. It's a foothold situation. You get 4, 5, 7, 10 of these guys in there. Next thing you know, there's a committee, and the committee nominates the members, the officers, and then the officers pick the nominating committee, and then the nominating committee picks the officers, and then the officers pick the nominating committee. No one ever speaks. No one ever campaigns. No one's allowed to be on the list. I sent a letter to the president informing him that I had been in the group more than a year, and that I wanted to run for president, and that my friend wanted to run as vice president, and that we met the criteria, and that we wanted to run. And I was sent the letter back that said they would consider it. And then when the meeting came up, when they went to the nominations, they asked if there was any other nominations out there, and they said they had received none. Lying, because they did actually receive them from us. I know they did because they responded back. I have all that. And so what it is they didn't want us to be part of their group. They don't want change. They don't want younger folks. And I'm 55, but in this group, I'm younger folks. And so what ended up happening was they kicked us out of the Zoom meeting. I was booted out of 13 Zoom meetings. And I actually screen recorded the last 4 or 5 of them. I actually have proof that I was kicked out of these meetings. Why? Because the man that owned the Zoom account is one of these old curmudgeons. And anytime someone would say something he didn't like, he would boot them from the meeting. I didn't even get to speak. I would hit the button to speak, and I would get booted. My friend would hit the button to speak. He would get booted. It's corrupt. It's corrupt. And slowly, these people are dying off. These people, these very corrupt old men are dying off. And as this happens, there's an opportunity here for the younger club members that are members of these groups to start asking questions like, why is it that that I'm not given a choice for president every year? Why is it that I'm not told, hey, Bob, Jim, and Linda want to be president? We're going to give each of them 5 minutes to tell you why they want to be president, and then you get to vote. That's the way it works in America, right? I mean, that's the way it works in the United States, but that's not the way it works at a lot of these local clubs around here and a lot of the clubs around the country. They all have these little tricks and these little games that they employ to keep themselves in power. And so watch for that. When you join a group, stay in the background, stay quiet, and start to watch. And then when you're standing out in the parking lot, okay, and the old men are smoking their stogies, walk up and ask one of them, pull him aside where he's not around the other guys, and ask him, what's the election process? Are members allowed to apply to be board members, and are they considered? Are they allowed to speak to the membership? Are they considered and voted on? And then I would also ask questions like free speech, like, you know, what are your rules on free speech here? As a member, do I have free speech rights within the group? You want to make sure that you're joining a group that's going to be there for you, and that you're not just wasting your money paying for something, and this group's literally squandering the money. Why should a amateur radio group that does hardly anything have tens of thousands of dollars in the bank? It's ridiculous. It's because the truth is all that money needs to be spent on furthering the hobby, and these people don't care at all about furthering the hobby. Most of the board members don't even have working HF radios at their house. I had a president that was telling me how I should be doing things, and I already had 10 times more contacts than he had in his logbook. This guy's been at ham radio for 20 years. He had no working HF radio, and he's the president of the club telling everybody what to do, and he don't even know how to program his own equipment. So there's a lot wrong with ham radio, a lot. And so when you join a group, you want to make sure that first the group has your interest in mind. I'm going to tell you another little story. I went after this group. I went up the road here to another group that's miles up the road. And before I had even quit the first group, before I had even made a big stink or anything, I went up to this other group. And they had a thing out in this pavilion in this county park. I drove all the way up there, and I went and I sat at this county park. I sat there for over an hour at a picnic table. People all around me, people bumping into me. No one ever spoke to me. I sat there. I had my little computer. I was trying. I was like wanting to talk to people when they come by. I'd make eye contact with them and hi, how you doing? And they would just go hi and walk by real quick. They were truly not interested in meeting new people. I was treated like a piece of shit. I sat there for almost an hour, stood up, closed my laptop, grabbed my portable radio, and walked back in my car, and I drove away. And I've never done another thing with that group for 2 or 3 years now. I don't even know what they're doing up there. I care not. But that's the way new people are treated in these clubs. You're treated like crap because really, they would like to get your money if they could, but they really don't want to deal with you if they don't have to. We got Hamfest here. Every year they have Hamfest. They have it on Friday and Saturday. Why? Several of the board members are Christians. They have church on Sunday. Well, only 15% of the population goes to church now, but somehow they changed their entire schedule to work around several people's church schedule. I have a real issue with that. Events are held on Friday and Saturday, okay? I work Monday through Saturday. Sunday's the day that I get to go to events. They don't have the event on Sunday. They only have it on Friday and Saturday. It's ridiculous. Even if I took Saturday off of my second job so that I could attend and get a table, which is what I wanted to do, I still would have to miss out on Friday because I have a broadcast schedule on Friday. So basically, because a few members don't like doing things on Sunday, even if you start at noon, I don't see why we can't do a noon to 6 on Sunday. You can still go to church. But because these few members are church members, the entire club suffers. And nobody comes on Friday. Why? It's Friday. And I'll tell you another reason why they do it. They like to just be around their own people who are retired. If you have a job and you work, you can't be there on Friday. And they're actually fine with that. They actually like that. They really prefer not to be around younger folks that want to talk about things like computers and programming and that kind of stuff. So what ends up happening is you end up with a Hamfest. They have it every year. They call it successful every year. And what you have is a one-day Hamfest with a big waste of time on Friday. It's just, it's ridiculous. More than majority of Hamfests are held on Saturday and Sunday. But it's just an example of how one or two members of this local board that are always on this board, they keep getting put back on this board. And because they go to church, that's it. We're done. And this is a taboo subject. I don't care. I'm talking about it. Okay? I don't give a crap. This is taboo to talk about how church displaces everything else. But it's true. Okay? We could still have church and this thing on Sunday. But because of that, they won't do anything on Sunday. So we are relegated to a day that over two-thirds of our group can't come because they're at work. Their biggest operating event of the year, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now, if you're a 35-year-old man and you work for a living, you got an 8-to-5 job, you cannot participate in the biggest event of the year. How's that good? I don't understand that. Well, it's designed that way. They don't want you there. What they want is just the old retired guys. I mean, they would probably limit the group to 55 and older if they could get away with it. But that gets legally complicated, and it also gets complicated with the membership. But I'm convinced that they plan things on Friday and plan things on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday I'm convinced that this local group does this because these old men would really prefer that the younger guys don't show up. They would really prefer that the younger guys would just stay home and let them go play with their radios and let them go do it at their pace using the old software or the old logbooks that they want to use. And that, I really think that has something to do, a lot to do with it. I really do. So beware your local club. If you decide to go the route of checking out your local club, do it cautiously. Do it cautiously. Check it out. Make sure that your local club is something that you're going to want to be a part of. And the first sign of trouble, quit. It's not worth trying to fix it. You're not going to fix it. These people are entrenched. They've been there for many, many years. The same guys, 90-year-old guys, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, they make up positions. First trustee 1, first trustee 2, past president, past vice president. They make extra board positions so that because they have a rule that you can only serve in each position so many times or once, and you have to leave. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, they get around it by just creating more board positions. And then just the electing committee elects the same people to the same position. They just move the positions around. It's really a farce. And because of that, there's been no positive change. They still don't do any outreach at the schools. They still don't do build days. There's one guy in the group that goes out and does POTA and makes a big deal about POTA. Congrats to him. At least he's doing something. But they just sit around a tree and talk nonsense. It's like, look, we need groups out there that are going to be pro-amateur radio. And the only way you can be pro something is if you are for bringing in new people into it. And I don't think they're really that interested in bringing new people into it. I really don't. And that's the problem. That brings me to the next thing, the ARRL. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the American Radio Relay League because I just did a video not long ago and another one before that explaining how messed up the ARRL is. So I'm going to leave that to you. My suggestion to new hams, do not join the ARRL. It's a waste of your money. They're failing. Everything they've got doesn't work right, and you don't need anything that they have. If you want to know more about the ARRL, go see my previous videos. Just go to my channel and look there. Within the last 10 videos, you'll see several of them. The internet is literally where you're going to go to find most of your information. When you're researching radio equipment, you can go ask the old folks what they think about this or that, and they're going to tell you, I don't buy Chinese equipment. And you know what? The best thing to do is Amazon reviews. Buy it on Amazon, and you can return it on Amazon. You don't need to go to ham radio. These old guys will tell you, you need to go support your ham radio shacks. You need to go support your ham radio shops, and you need to use these big ham radio conglomerates and buy these ham radios that are made in Japan, these good ham radios. The truth is, no, you don't. You can buy great radios on Amazon to get started. You do not need expensive radio equipment. So the bottom line, don't listen to the sad hams about the Chinese stuff. When they start telling you about spurious transmissions and low wattage and things like that, that was all the days of the past. All the ham radios right now that we've been testing out of China, the Baofangs, the TYTs, the Radiodities, they're all putting out what they say they put out, and we're not seeing the spurious transmissions. So I really get sick of that old argument. You had an argument with the first round of UV5Rs that came out. The filtering was terrible. The spurious was bad. There was issues with them putting out 2 and 3 watts instead of 5 or 10 like they said. That's true. Not anymore. They stepped up to the game now. I bought the UV25. It's putting out 11 watts on 70 centimeters. So we're talking about some major radios here that you can get from China now. So don't think you have to buy the $500 radio to get started. $24 gets you started. $50 gets you a great radio. $150 gets you one that goes in your car with a magnet mount on the roof. You don't need to spend a lot of money on radios. Get into ham radios slowly. Buy a radio. See if you like it. Look at what direction you want to move in. You may not even like the local repeaters. You want to get on low bands, so do that. Whatever. Don't run up your credit cards buying a whole bunch of radios. I mean, I know I bought 3 or 4 things when I first started that I really never used. They were just, I shouldn't have spent that $50. I shouldn't have spent that $100. I bought something else that was a piece of crap and it blew up. I say, to the extent you can, build your own equipment. Go and build your own antennas. Get involved in the hobby of electronics. And don't worry so much about the politics and the people and the bullshit and the clubs and the groups and the cliques. What you need to worry about is having fun in ham radio. And sometimes that means just doing your own thing, finding a few friends to do it with. Don't let sad hams run you off. Don't do it. They're just nasty old men, and they like to keep it to themselves, and that's what they do, and they suck. Don't let them run you off, dude. This is your hobby just as much as it is theirs, just because they've been here longer. And free speech is free speech. Let me tell you what. There is no protocol that you have to use when you get on the radio. You can pick it up and go, "Hey, Bob, you on the frequency?" "Yeah, I am." And then give your call sign. You're legal. I get sick of, one of the things I really get tired of is hearing about I didn't get on the radio because they're really a stickler about protocol. Screw them. Screw them. There is no protocol. Just get on there and talk. If you want to talk like a police dispatcher, then practice and do it and get good at it. That's fine, but you don't have to, okay? You don't have to. There's no standard protocol on the radio other than you have to ID. That's about it. All frequencies are open for your use. When they tell you this frequency is not for public use, they're lying. Now, if someone's using it, you shouldn't use it because you're causing intentional interference. That's different. But you're allowed to use anything you want if no one else is already using it. It's that simple. For every sad ham out there, there's 2 or 3 others out here that have either given up or they're doing their own thing like I am, or they found something in the hobby that makes them happy. They're contesters, whatever. They do it for emergency services, whatever. They find something to do within it. The hobby is being ruined by curmudgeons that are inflexible to change, and it's being ruined by the willful stifling of free speech, and it's being ruined by corruption within some of the local clubs. Not all. I've heard of some clubs that are amazing, and hopefully you're in that town and you find one that works for you. Ham radio, it's a little scary to get into, but don't be scared to pick up the mic and press the button and talk. You can't get in trouble for talking, okay? There's nothing you can say on the radio that will get you in trouble as long as you're not threatening other humans, okay? So just get on there and have a good time. Make ham radio yours. Find other people that you can be friends with that like it like you do, and then make it work for you. Ham radio is a lot of fun. All right, guys, that's about it for today. A little dark in the middle there, but I want people to understand what they're getting into. I heard a horror story a few weeks ago of another club in the north part of this state that's the same way as the one I found here. So I just want to make sure that everybody out there, when you get into ham radio, that you watch out for those pitfalls. And sometimes those pitfalls are disguised as helpful people or groups of people that want to help you, and they really don't. So just watch out for that. If you need anything, get with me. Send me an email, ko4efs@gmail.com. That's Kilo Oscar 4, Echo Foxtrot Sierra, @gmail.com. I am responsive to all emails, and I do try to provide what help I can. And we're even looking for people to join up and work with us here, both on the channel and with the Freedom Network repeater system that we're putting up. So if you're interested in working with me, get with me. I'd love to talk to you. Until then, I hope to see you guys on the next adventure, or perhaps down the log. My name's Ian, KO4EFS. We'll see you next time here from Starship Studios in Southwest Florida. This is Starship Adventures. 7 3s.